Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Military Spouse to Millionaire. I am your host, Kendra Atienza, and today we are going to be talking about on-post housing, and more transparently, we're going to be talking shit about on-post housing. So if you love on-post housing, this probably is not the episode for you. You should save your time. You should scroll on. You should find a different podcast to listen to. Normally when I talk about housing options, I try to be very um, fair as far as like, let's highlight good and bad things about both options. And I'll do that a little bit here in this episode, but full disclosure, it's not going to be a lot of nice stuff that we're going to be talking about with regard to on-post housing, which is unfortunate because as a whole, in a nutshell, I think the concept of on-post housing is a good one. Like, I really love where the military's head was at maybe generations ago, where they thought to themselves, hey, we have these installations, we have this demographic, this group of people that have these shared experiences. Let's have housing for them so that they have a sense of community, even though they're moving around all the time. Like as a concept, on-post housing is actually kind of a good idea, in my opinion. And that's where the positive things stop. No, I'm just kidding. But in reality, and it may have been great at one time, but in reality, largely speaking, and of course there are exceptions to every rule, but largely speaking, all over the US, not just here in Hawaii, what we are left with currently is really dilapidated, broke down, aging, in disrepair properties, homes that are not properly maintained, are not regularly maintained, are not suitable in a lot of ways for people to be living in, let alone the 1% of people and families who are choosing to defend our country and serve our nation. Like, the conditions of on-post housing across the US is absolutely terrible, and even more terrible when you think about the families who are living there and the sacrifices that they already make. They should at least get decent housing. So that's kind of an issue. But just jumping right into it, let's play a little bit of a hypothetical, game of pretend. So I'm a realtor. Let's pretend that I'm showing you houses. We go to 2 properties in one day. You're like, none of these properties, neither of these properties really fits the bill, suits my needs. When can you show me more? These are kind of dated. I wanted something with a garage, like whatever. And I then said to you, as your real estate agent, I'm sorry, I've fulfilled my minimum obligation to you by showing you these 2 homes, and you now have 48 hours to decide. If you pass on both of these homes, I will then show you one more house once you come back to the top of my arbitrary waiting list. And if you decline that home, I refuse to show you any further houses, and there's going to be a financial penalty. I guarantee you would never talk to me again. And not only would you never talk to me again, you would go online and absolutely drag me in Google reviews or on my Facebook page or whatever. You would be telling anyone you met about what a crazy experience you had with this realtor who only wanted to show you 3 houses and expected you to make a decision within 48 hours, or there was going to be some penalties. Crazy, right? That would be crazy of me. However, that is exactly what on-post housing does. And they package it up as policy, and we as military families drink that Kool-Aid and say to ourselves, it's policy. When we were personally house hunting, and yes, that was 7 years ago, but also I have helped hundreds of military families since then, 50 this year already, and I can tell you that this is the same. You go look at houses, they show you 1 or 2 properties, They give you 24 to 48 hours to decide. If you pass on those properties, they put you back to whatever waiting list they might have at that time, and then they'll show you one more property. And if you're in TLA, if you decline that third property, they stop your TLA, which is essentially retaliatory and designed to cut off your reimbursement from staying in TLA to be able to afford a hotel so you can keep looking at more properties. And it absolutely blows me away how readily military families swallow that pill and are just like, oh, I guess we have to, take this house. Whether you buy, whether you rent, or whether you live on post, let's just put it out there in the open. If you live here in Hawaii, you are going to get damn near, if not more, than $100,000. If you're here for a 3-year tour, which is pretty standard, you're going to get at least, if not more, than $100,000 in tax-free housing allowance. And you have to live somewhere. So you're going to spend that money on something. Now, on the mainland, you can sometimes get away with finding a place to rent that's slightly under housing allowance. And I'm not saying that it's impossible here to do that, but it is really hard. They don't give us as much housing allowance as they do here in Hawaii, because they care about us pocketing and saving money and building a nest egg with our BAH. They give us the amount of housing allowance that they do here because, you guys, that's what it costs to live. So again, there's exceptions to every rule. So if you're a captain or a major and it's just you and your spouse and you can get by with a 2-bedroom, sure, you can probably buy or rent and maybe be under your housing allowance, but that's not a normal thing. Let's just come to terms with the fact that no matter which housing option you choose, you're going to be spending around $100,000. If you live on post, and if you make peace with the fact that you're only going to be given 2 or 3 options and a very short timeline to make a decision on which house you want to live in, you're then going to give away over $100,000 to on-post housing. That's painful enough to think about because there are very few guarantees in life, you guys, but I'm promising you, if you live on post, you are guaranteed not to ever see a penny of that $100,000+ again. It's gone. It's in the wind. It's disappeared. And if you were getting some sort of like really phenomenal property for that money, I could at least make a little bit more peace with the fact that it's a monumental waste of money with 0% chance of return on investment, because that's why I'm here, guys. I'm not here to sugarcoat it and be like, yeah, waste the $100,000 so you can get an extra bedroom. Waste the $100,000 so you can keep your 10-foot couch. Waste the $100,000 so you can keep your 12-foot dining table. That's not why I'm here. That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about being smart with the entitlements that we get as active duty military so that you set yourself up for financial success and stability and generational wealth in the future. And yes, as I've said a million times, and I will say a million more times, that does come with some short-term sacrifices. And if you're not interested in that, again, this probably is not the podcast for you, but you're still here, so let's assume you are interested in that. So you're going to be giving away $100,000 to on-post housing after they only gave you 2 or 3 options and a very short deadline in which to make that decision. But let's say you did it. And let's say you're here for a year and congratulations, you made rank, got promoted and your BAH is going up $200. But also in that year, oh my gosh, we got a housing allowance increase or, whatever combination of things results in BAH going up, okay? We had E1 through E4s, I think not this year, but last year, E1 through E4 got a $400 a month bump increase in their housing allowance, you guys. $400. All of those E1 through E4s that lived on post, in on-post housing, had that money taken from them. On post housing, even if your housing allowance goes up, they are going to take all that extra money. And the $1,000,000 question then becomes, do you think that those people got anything for that extra money? Whether it's $100 or whether it's $1,000, if you're paying more for something and you're not getting anything extra, you are being ripped off. That is a racket. Quite frankly, I think it is unethical and like borderline should be illegal. They're living in the same house. And I think this about rental increases too. And honestly, I'm a landlord and we don't raise our rents as often as most landlords because that's another episode. I won't go down that road. Stay tuned. I'll do one on rentals. But on post housing, you're living in the same house, the same four walls, the same shitty linoleum flooring, the same shitty Formica countertops covered in plastic coating, the same bugs, the same mold, the same power outages. You're living in the same damn house and you're paying sometimes hundreds of dollars more a month for it. And you're not getting anything. You are being robbed. It is absolute craziness, you guys. And people just are like, that's the policy. If one more military family says it's the policy, I'm going to shake them until they wake up. Wake up. You're not getting anything for that money ever, but then they're taking more money from you and you're still not getting anything. It's just wild. In addition to that, and I promise this will probably be a pretty short episode because I'm just going to rattle these off and I don't want to go on a tangent and that's an hour long because it's not necessary. So just keeping it moving. Other drawbacks to on-post housing. Like I said, if you were getting some like really spectacular house and it was like pristine and just like, wow, okay, like maybe I could make peace with it and be like, yeah, it's a really nice fucking house. I would probably want to live there too, even though it's not a good investment, which is why we're here to make good investments. That's not the case, you guys. And you don't have to take my word for it. I know I'm a realtor, which means that I can't talk about this sort of stuff without having an agenda, but fine, don't take my word for it. Why don't you look up the town hall meeting that was held on Schofield Barracks in 2019? It's like over an hour long. It was posted on my Facebook page. If you really want to like scroll back to 2019, I posted the whole town hall meeting where they talked nonstop about mold infestation, bug infestations, power outages. And yeah, that was in 2019, but those things are still happening today. Go to any of the spouse pages, you guys. Type in bugs, type in mold, type in power outages, type in, let's not forget, jet fuel in the water. Just last year, Pearl Harbor was ranked the most toxic installation in the armed forces. That is not a distinction that we really want to have here in paradise, but that is the reality of the situation. Jet fuel in the water. And I still have people tell me that they would rather risk that to get a 5-bedroom house versus having their kids share a room for 3 years to buy a house that's smaller square footage, but is safer, number one, and will, dollars to donuts, more than likely net them a profit. It's absolutely wild. So don't take my word for it. Please do your own research. Please check it out. Again, I know as a realtor, people are like, you're just saying that to get me to buy a house. I'm saying it because there are documented evidence of it everywhere. And it's facts. Now, do off-post houses have issues too? Absolutely. Buy a house, rent a house. They can have issues, but they are not nearly as prevalent as they are on the military installations, especially if you're looking at houses, around newer parts of the island. They're just simply not going to have as many problems. And generally speaking, especially when you're looking at buying a home, homeowners, I think generally take better care of properties. Not to mention when you buy a home, you get, a home inspection, which looks at the structure of the home, the foundation, the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, everything, test the appliances, all of the things. You don't get that when you move on post. You do a walkthrough and you're like, yeah, looks good. But they might have just painted over the mold that was there when they did the move out from the last people. So, yeah, I'm not saying that, off post houses are perfect, but they are absolutely a better investment. So, I guess just to summarize, guys, I won't, beat a dead horse, but I think you just have to be in the right mindset and really get your head around the fact that the short-term sacrifice you make to invest in yourself and invest in a property here in Hawaii is that, yes, it is absolutely going to be smaller square footage. There's no getting around that. Even people that have a very healthy budget, you're not going to see these like 2,000 or 2,500 square foot homes that you tend to see pretty commonly on military installations. But you're also going to be not wasting $100,000. Like, there's give and take in everything. Yes, you will have to downsize. Yes, you will have to make sacrifices, but that will at least net you something in the long run. So that's something that I just encourage people to have in the forefront of their mind. Some other things that I want to quickly debunk about military housing. Everyone thinks, oh, I'm living in military housing because I want a standalone single family home. Not a guarantee, you guys. Most single family homes on military installations are reserved for higher ranking officers. You are not guaranteed to get a single family home on post. You are not guaranteed to get a fenced in yard living on post. You are not guaranteed to get a garage living on post. There are a ton of on post properties that are fourplexes, sixplexes, very townhouse style. Yes, they may be upstairs, downstairs, but you're still connected and have attached neighbors without fenced in yards. It might just be like a shared common space with carports, not a garage. So you're not necessarily guaranteeing yourself those things when you go to live on post. You absolutely, because space is an issue here no matter what, you absolutely could be in the same sort of living configuration as you would see out on the economy. That all being said, I do just want to be really transparent that I do understand buying a home is not an option for everybody. And for that matter, renting a home isn't an option for everybody. Getting your foot in the door at a rental is a substantial cost here in Hawaii. You have to pay first month's rent and you have to pay a security deposit equal to first month's rent. That can be pretty costly, even if you're renting a place that's $3,000 a month, which is a pretty common housing allowance here. You're looking at spending $6,000 just to get your foot in the door. And that's if you don't have pets. And I absolutely understand not everybody has maybe $6,000 to drop to move into a rental or pay their closing costs to buy a house, or maybe their credit's not good enough to buy, or any number of things. Like, I do understand that not everybody can buy a house. This information I think is still important for people to hear. Even if you can't buy now, it's important that you start having that mental shift, that change in perspective from I'm a sheep, I'm going to go where all the other sheep are. We're on an island, you guys. It's tiny. This tiny island has every branch of military. I promise you, there is just as many military families probably living on my street as there is if I were to live on post. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but there are countless military families living out on the economy. It's not like you're going to move to a neighborhood and be like not surrounded by military, if that's a concern. But even if you're someone who can't buy now or whatever, this information I hope still reaches you and resonates, and you start to get your mind around, okay, I understand fundamentally what she's saying, even though I can't do it now. Like, let's start taking the steps to get to a place where we can do it at our next duty station, or do it a year from now, or do it whatever. It's not about buying a house right now. It's not even about buying a house with me. It's about just getting you out of that trance of, oh, it's policy, so it's okay that On Post does this, or I'm moving, so I want to live where all the other military families are, even though I'm wasting $100,000. It's the mental shift that I'm after. It's not the sale that I'm after. If you're moving here and this makes sense to you, obviously reach out to me. I am happy to help you find a house. But even if that's not you right now, I understand that some people have no option, literally, but to live on post. And for those people, you have my most sincere condolences. I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you and your family potentially have to live in those conditions. And I know as military families, we're resilient and you'll make the best of it. And I hope you still enjoy your time here on island and this duty station. I am so sorry that you don't have better living accommodations. I'm sorry that across the US, garrisons nationwide have let our housing that is supposed to be for our families who protect our nation fall into such disrepair. It is a tragedy. It is something that's I'm very passionate about this. Maybe I should do more in a bigger way to sort of, speak out about this. If anybody listening knows of like avenues I could take or groups I could get in touch with, like this is something that I'm very passionate about, is on post housing and how unhealthy it is and how unsafe it is. And, maybe I can use my platform to get in touch with people and affect change. Like, change happens even at small levels. So if you have to live on post, I get it, but I hope this message still reaches you and it still resonates in some way, that even if it's a year from now or your next duty station or 5 years from now, you can start making changes now to receive this message and to digest what I'm saying, and for that light bulb to go off and say, okay, we can't buy now because of XYZ. Let's come up with a plan. Call me, you guys, message me. I absolutely will give advice, mentor. Clayton's a mortgage broker. Obviously, we're not financial advisors or anything in that profession, but he talks to people every day who aren't in a position to buy now. And he's not ever going to just tell somebody, you can't buy, see you later. He's going to put you in touch with people that can help with credit repair or counseling for debts or credit issues. Like, we have resources. And again, it's not about the sale. It's about getting people on the track of investing in themselves and having that mindset of, hey, I'm having this tax-free benefit given to me that's for housing, and I can choose what to do with it. I have these 3 options: buy, rent, live on post. Right now, all I can do is this option. What steps can I take to give me these other 2 options? And most importantly, this one option, which is buying a home, that's going to give me and my family a chance to make any sort of profit, have any sort of control over my environment. All of that is so important to me, you guys. So I know this episode was a bit erratic and a bit of a rant, but I think these are important things to put on people's radar, because I don't want to use the term brainwashed, but we just get so like the herd mentality. I'm moving to a new duty station. I'm just going to go live where all the other military families live. I can walk to the PX. I can wake up 5 minutes before PT to go to work. You guys, I understand that. But at the end of the day, 20 years from now, when you've given away Lord knows how much BAH, it's worth it to wake up 15 minutes earlier to go to work. Like, if I were to tell you right now, hey, if you wake up 30 minutes earlier and have a commute to work, but in 3 years, I'm going to give you a bag of money with $50,000 in it, I bet most people would absolutely take me up on that. So again, it goes back to short-term sacrifice, whether the short-term sacrifice is getting rid of depreciating assets like your big ass couch that you shouldn't be bringing to Hawaii anyways, because homes here are small, or a car that won't fit in the garages here, or, like whatever. It's about making that short-term sacrifice. And I've had to do it. Hundreds of my clients have had to do it. But in the end, when they sell their homes and they go on to the mainland and buy their dream homes or buy multiple rental properties or reinvest into their next property and maybe renovate it to force more appreciation, the short-term sacrifice is worth it. Okay, guys, That's all I have for you for this episode. Thanks as always for tuning in. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the things. You know by now, I wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't for all of you. Thank you so, so much. See you next time.